Teddy, darling. Hi, hello, hello. Are you ready to introduce our program? What do you think? Is that a possibility? Should we do that? Okay, good. Are you wonderful? Um, right. Should you go? Do you want to go first or should I go first? Okay, I'll go first then. And welcome to Pet Talk with me. Yeah, with me, Anna, and I think that was Teddy. Would you like to say your name again? Good. And today what are we doing? We're talking to Kate from Equischolar. And so welcome, Kate. Do you want to say welcome? Wonderful. Excellent. Okay. So welcome to Kate from me and from Teddy. And it is only now that I have realized that I never did get your surname.
Oh, it's Blackmore.
Kate Blackmore from Equischolars. Hello, Kate.
Hi,
Well,
Teddy.
we had a wonderful chat at the start, which diverted me from my intention of asking you for your full name. So here you are to talk about Equischolars. What is Equischolars?
So, Equischolars is a business that sells curricula on equine behavior to equine centres all over the world. And it's all about equine behavior. And it's for kids and young adults. And lots of adults do it too, because actually it's really fun. And we teach kind of principles of equine behavior through really fun ground-based activities. So they're really immersive, lots of movement in it. And yeah, we teach it to one-to-ones or groups as well.
That just sounds amazing. I'm beginning to wish that there was something like that for dogs, you know.
I know a few people that are wanting to develop stuff with dogs, and I absolutely believe that, it is something the dog world is missing because it's a great way to teach, but also without it being too confrontational because it keeps it really fun. And especially in the equine industry, it's steeped in tradition. There's a lot of strong opinions in the equine community. And so when I was designing it, I really had to keep in mind kind of how people would accept it because, you know, we know people can get a bit scared of change, and I think a lot of the way the equine community views people that talk about equine behavior is a bit like the vegan movement. It can be interpreted as kind of like it can get people's backs up sometimes, because we're kind of questioning everything that people think about horses and the way that we manage them and train them. So I wanted to do it in a really fun way. I'm trained as an equine behavior consultant. So I worked with adults for many years, and would go out, visit, help them with their horses. And it was a struggle, I will say. And working with the kids I worked in an equine centre for 10 years. It was a therapeutic environment, but we also had, your main school riding as well. And I think when I first learned about behaviour, I started to think, right, I've got to teach this to the kids because I felt really annoyed that I didn't know this information. I had never been given this information, and I was, quite peeved at that. I felt it was unfair because if I had known that there was another way, I would have probably gone with the other way. So, when you're a kid or young adult, when you go into anything to do with horses, there's kind of only one way in, right? In the UK, it's monopolized basically. And I felt that that wasn't right. And so I wanted to teach the kids this stuff. And what was the changing moment for me and what made me think, okay, I'm onto something and I need to create this as a business and sell this and inspire other people was the fact that the kids started choosing to do these ground-based activities with me over riding. And then for me, that was the okay light bulb moment, because the next generations, the younger generations are much more aware of societal issues, right? They're much more aware of the environment. They're much more kind of, they're different to us. They look at things differently. They're through social media and stuff, they're being made aware of these wider issues. And I think that, that's what I kind of wanted to tap into, was the fact that these kids actually really, really wanted to learn about the way their horses were communicating with them, or the needs of their horses, or, it suddenly made so much more sense. And also I wanted to take away the fear element. So I think when I grew up, so I had horses when I was younger. My mum was really big with horses, ran her own riding school, did a BHSII, and, was RDA, which is Riding for the Disabled Association instructor, which I first started out as. And she kind of was very traditional in her approach, right? And so I did all the gymkhanas and stuff. But when I kind of had about 10 years out while I did university and stuff, when I came back to work with horses as a new mum, I realized I was actually just really scared of them. I just thought they were like out to hurt me. I always thought something was going to happen to me, because of the way that I had been taught. You must always wear a hat when you're around a horse. Never walk up behind a horse because it would kick you. It's all very fear-based, and no one actually explained to me, well, that's because of how the horse sees, and there's this blind spot. And if you walk and talk in the same way, then they're not going to do that. Or if we understand more about what's happening for the horse in that moment, if we learn to be present with them and we understand their communication signals, we can be a lot safer. Therefore, we don't necessarily have to wear this hat all the time around them. And also, it's what we're teaching the kids we work with. If I tell a kid all the time, you must wear a hat while you're around a horse, then automatically I think, okay, because I'm going to get hurt by that horse. Then that affects my interactions with the horse, right? So I'm going to be harsher with that horse. It's going to affect the way that I'm with them, and I'm going to be creating those problems, or kind of developing those problems as well. And so that became a really, really important element of kind of my personal journey of how I wished that my education had been different in horses.
I really love what you're doing, because it is about promoting understanding of another species. And that's why I was saying, I'm a little bit jealous. I wish, something existed like this with dogs, because before Teddy came into my life, I was already thinking one day there will be a puppy in my life.
Yeah.
And so I was already reading and watching and thinking, I like this, I don't like that. So I was already on that journey, maybe 10 years before Teddy finally arrived.
Yeah.
But even then, when he arrived, there's what you read in theory, and then there's the reality of a puppy who has razor sharp claws and jumps at you. And so, okay, you're wearing jeans, but still, and all the other things that puppies do, the chewing, the biting, all of that stuff. And thankfully, I had done a lot of reading, but I counted the days till I got to puppy school.
Yeah.
And then that was helpful. But my Teddy had not read the books and was not particularly interested in walking on lead, learning to walk nicely on the lead in puppy class, or, and
Yeah.
And really, I was lucky because there was a wonderful teacher who started to teach me that actually his behavior was perfectly normal, and that there was nothing wrong with him. Because to me, I looked at all the other puppies in class and they looked perfectly well behaved. Mine,
Yeah.
and we were in a stable for our puppy classes. And the dirt underneath. Oh, he looked like he was digging his way to Australia every time, I was instructions. Um, so there's all of that stuff, and I'm thinking how I wish that I had had that. But thankfully, she then pointed me in the direction of books and etc., and that helped. So I think what you're doing is so valuable. In cats, all those animals that are in our lives, we need it for every single species, because then we wouldn't have fear being passed on to children that animals are dangerous, because the child would know, no, animals are not dangerous, I just need to understand them. So I think what you're doing is absolutely wonderful. You mentioned groundwork. Tell us what that is.
So groundwork, not as in the traditional kind of horsey groundwork where we lunge a horse and do all of that. It's activities that are not riding is what I mean by groundwork. So activities that involve the horse and activities that don't involve the horse. So we can teach loads of principles and things through these immersive activities without even working with the horse. So one of our first modules is senses. It's all about how horses, see, hear, taste the world. And one of the most popular activities we have is how horses see the world. And I remember the first time I ever delivered it as a camp. Right. So a group of kids going mad, and we know that we've got to get loads of kind of activities in there and make sure that it's kind of like jam packed. And we have this activity. So what we do is we get the kids to kind of set up an obstacle course, and we'll have like a little jump in there and stuff. And we have these goggles that, like the snorkel goggles, and we tape them off so that we can kind of show the blind spots. So, there's only like that certain field of view. And what we do is we get them to work together. So one's kind of supporting the person as they go. They have to keep their head straight, and they'll walk over a jump and stuff to see how it will disappear when you're going over, when the horse is going over. And in one of my first camps, I had a 16-year-old girl who did loads of show jumping with her pony. And I remember she came back to me after she did it. She sat down beside me and she said, "Oh, wow, I have so much more respect for my pony right now. I can't believe how much my pony has to trust me to, go over these jumps," and these are the seeds I want to plant, right? People don't realize how much our horses do for us just purely by being in domestication, because we know on an evolutionary scale, the amount of time they've had to adjust to domestication is minuscule. So simply by being in a stable, that's all, asking a horse to stand still, that's a massive behavior, but we just do it. We tie up a horse, expect it to stand still. That's really difficult for a horse that's supposed to be moving its feet every 3 to 4 seconds, So I wanted to really have these immersive experiences, them to kind of go, wow, those light bulb moments of, whoa, okay. And to kind of encourage those conversations of, yeah, so that means we have to develop these really trusting partnerships. And the way that we develop those trusting partnerships is through understanding what our horse needs and what they're communicating to us and responding to that. And that for me was like the best thing out of that whole camp, just that one moment to just go, yes, even if it's just one person that, they all got something from it, but I know that child's going to take that through their relationship with the horse, and that will open up to other things. So yeah, so some of them, yeah, we do a whiskers one, which is great. And we went to Sandringham last year with Kate Thornton, who you've had on the podcast. And we took a team up there, and it was quite funny because it's Sandringham and there was like lots and lots of competition, lots of horses there and kids and stuff. And we kind of did all like color vision, and we did whiskers. So we have these two kind of like you know, when you go to Fates and you have like raffle boxes and you put your hands in. So we have that, and we put objects in, and they fill the objects with gloves and without gloves. Now this is, and we talk about, could you figure out what it was with the gloves and without the gloves, and what was the difference? And then that's a conversation about whiskers and how important it is for horses to be able to feel what's in front of their mouths, to feel what they're eating, to navigate their way, you know. And I had loads of adults do it as well. And they had an 81-year-old woman who's been teaching riding all her life. And she said, thank you. I have never known this stuff. I've never experienced the stuff that you've been teaching. And we did this whole demo and she applauded. And, you know, you have those moments where you're just like, yes, this is really cool. This is, you know, really awesome that we're getting to people, and kind of, it's really important that we do it in a non-judgmental way. It's really important that we kind of give, we're adding to the knowledge rather than saying this isn't the way, but we also develop the child or young person to obtain their own beliefs and their own values. And that's really important. So we bring in debates, and they have to, like, for example, should we stable horses? And they research both for and against arguments, and they don't get told which side they're going to be for quite a long time. And then they get told if they're for or against, which is really important. So they're looking at, we want to give all the information so they can make their own choices of how they want to be, what kind of equestrian they want to be. And also knowing that an equestrian can look like anything that you want. And that's really important. You don't have to be wearing jumpers and looking a certain way. You can be however you want, and that is accepted. And that's a really important thing for the child and young person, you know, as a individual, not just with horses, but in life, you know, to kind of really know where things have come from. You know, is it influence from parents, is it influence from media, and actually explore themselves, you know, so they come out and they can advocate their points. They've learned how to debate, because that's another bit, right? Because we don't want to create these children that are going into a wider world where they're going to come up against adversity. We have to make sure, and we have a responsibility to give them those skills. And that's a wonderful thing to see as well. I've got, you know, children that I've watched be able to go to volunteers or staff members that are like 50, 60 and really politely question when they see someone that's, you know, got a horse that's planted and they're yanking on the lead rope trying to get them done. They'll go in but they'll say, oh, I wonder why Bert doesn't want to move, right? It's not like you shouldn't be doing that, because that's not responsible, I don't believe, for us to do that. So we have to make sure that we're giving them all the tools, right, to kind of go into the wider world, and teaching them really important life lessons as well, right, and life skills.
Immersive. I love that. I love that what you're doing is actually demonstrating as much as is possible what life is like for a horse.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a bit of magic in what you're doing. It's absolutely wonderful. And I love that you're also giving young people the opportunity to think for themselves and to articulate what they're learning in debates, etc. Because that is gone from our schools. You know, children are taught what to believe, that there's right and wrong. This is what you believe. Yeah. And I really love that.
It's really helpful as well. We do. So we have Equischolars, and then we have Equischolars Plus, which is, we are inclusive in our approach. So all our curricula and stuff takes, you know, the individual. So our approaches are adapted, and we do lots of training on that. But our Equischolars Plus is, you know, purely therapeutic, and we have a package called Equischools, and we work with kids that are experiencing school anxiety. For example, they kind of have 12 weeks, 2 terms of Equischools. And the debating is really helpful with that, because a lot of the time these kids are in school with a teacher, and sometimes we know what it's like. You know, the teacher will tell that my son always comes here and says, I got told off for this, but this actually happened. And actually teaching them to be able to stay regulated and be able to challenge, but in a respectful way, can really help with that school-based anxiety as well. Like having their voice is really important.
You know, it's just occurred to me that one of the reasons why children may be so quick to get a handle on what you're teaching is because the power relationship between children and adults is there definitely are parallels to the
Mm.
power relationship that many people have with animals, and it's all about doing what you tell them to do.
Yeah.
And so I think and we've all been children, but many of us seem to forget what it felt like to have very limited agency in the presence of many adults, not just some, but many adults.
Mm-hmm.
So when you are showing them what it's like for a horse, they're going to get that pretty quickly, because that phase in their lives is not over. They are still in situations where their agency is limited.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's so many different elements to it. And, you know, when we train our mentors, we authenticity is a massive part of it. You know, we're not turning up pretending that we know everything. We model our behavior. If we don't know the answer, we're going to show these kids how we look for the answer and all of that stuff. But also, you know, so I have a few bugbears with kind of the industry and how it's going. So, you know, one of the things that I struggle with is the way that we teach riding can be particularly, when we look at the actual lessons that we're teaching the kids. So traditionally, anyone that grew up riding and stuff will totally resonate with this, but, you know, you're in it and that you're trying to get the horse to trot and the horse won't trot and they're like, kick, 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 kick. And then as soon as you get the horse to trot, they're like, yeah, good, well done. When you really think about that, what are we actually teaching that kid? What behavior are we reinforcing? And actually, when we're working with kids that may also have struggles around kind of being a bit dominant in their life over things, what are we teaching them? It's these life lessons. It's like, okay, if you kick the horse and you get that goal, I'm going to praise you for that. I'm going to reinforce that behavior. But then when you do that in other areas of life, I'm going to berate you for it. I mean, how confusing is that, right? Like, really confusing. But also, in a therapeutic environment, I actually find it very difficult to understand how we can possibly be doing therapeutic work when it's based on making the horse do things. That's, for me, really counterintuitive. It doesn't. And that's kind of partly another reason why I created this, because when I learned about behavior, I was like, but there's so many parallels between horses and humans. So you've got the horse that doesn't want to go to the arena, that won't even come out of its stable because of historical associations, getting down there, different riders, different handlers, all of that stuff, everything that it represents. And the child that doesn't want to go to school, like, that's a massive parallel. So what we started working on was, okay, well, let's look at this behavior and let's help this horse. How do we make the arena more positive? How do we help with that? So we do things like, maybe we go to the arena when there's not a lesson and we do like a scatter so that, we can get that seeking system going and kind of do fun things down there to kind of counter condition the arena. But the child is doing that work, is thinking of those things with you, and there's the work, because immediately the child that can't go into school will recognize what's going on for that horse. And if them helping to work the horse with that, they're then able to come up with ideas for themselves. How do we apply this to our own lives, and how can we, you know, and not many people do that. And that for me was like, I don't get that. How can no one see that's so clear as day that what these horses are going through is just the same? There's so much we can learn from them, the social structure. We have to get on in society, and it is difficult, but let's look at the social structure of the horses and use that as our model. It's for me, it's clear as day. Like, it seems to make a horse run around an arena and free school them, and that being confidence building and therapeutic, for me, that's, well, we're just using the fear system in a horse. And I'm being really honest now, because this is really, how I feel. I don't think that it's, touch is a great thing to do. Not all horses, everybody just, we're handsy, aren't we? So we're straight in, we put our hands, same with dogs, straight in touching them. But actually there's so much communication going on, consent and boundaries. As soon as we're walking up to that horse, we're getting calming signals. So let's look at that with the horse. We do a whole module on consent and boundaries and personal space, and we relate it to the horse and we relate it to the young people, so that we can read those subtle cues, the body language in the horse and in the human. Really, really important stuff that we can tap into from the horse. It's all there in front of us. We don't need to be doing. We need to be being. We need to be present, and we need to just look at what's happening around us, because the lessons are there. It's not about the goals. It's about our relationships. And that's, a really vital life lesson.
I love too that what you're doing is you're helping both the human and the horse side of the equation, because the reason that is, there are so many reasons why that's important, but one of them is that when you are teaching the children about the horses, and they are looking at the horses and relating to them, they're learning that they can learn from the horses or be inspired by the horses. And why that is so absolutely fundamental is because it nurtures respect and humility.
Mm.
It begins the process of ending the idea that because we are human, we are superior. And I think that is possibly the challenge of our time, because this is the way our relationship with nature has been, it seems, for millennia. And it is more and more in our time that we are beginning to see, I was going to say, the error of our ways, and I think that's quite apt. But what I actually mean by that is to see that this view limits us and is causing a tremendous amount of pain for us, as much as it is for the whole of the natural world, and of course animals. Yeah. So this small point that you've made is possibly one of the most important points that you've made during this conversation. And I absolutely, I just love it so much that you've said that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know what more I can say.
No, I know
it is. Yeah.
I'm in awe of what you're doing. I absolutely love what you're doing. I think it is a tonic to bring healing to our somewhat fractured world. And I wish for you an Equischolars school everywhere in this country and everywhere in the world, with
Thank
the opportunity to branch out into creating communication bridges with all other species also. So
Do you know what I would, if anyone's listening to this and wants to do a dog, we started a chicken one a long time ago, but time just ran out and we haven't been able to. I have wanted to do, but I don't have the, horses in my bag, really. But if anybody wants to collaborate on a dog one, I've always thought that it's a great way to do things. I think it's so needed and would be so popular. I mean, we're in over 12 countries now. So we've been going for about 3 years, and it's getting there, but we have the thing that it's just getting it out there, isn't it? That's the thing. It's getting it out there, getting the name. It just takes so long.
It takes time because I would not wish to sound as though I am being judgmental of our species, because our species, it feels sometimes like it's survival against all odds.
Yeah.
We have to deal with nature, and nature is not always cuddly and Disney-like. There are earthquakes, there are storms. When it's not the weather causing us problems, then we have to deal with the possibility of wild animals. And I'm talking about historically, with wild animals eating our food, competing with us for food, all the rest of it. We have got here for a reason. It's just that now is the time to review the journey so far. And we can see that the journey so far has had many positive points, but that there is a tremendous amount of room for improvement. And I think that that's what I would say. And so this takes time. It takes time for us to understand and to learn, to look at things from different perspectives. And that's the beauty of what you do, because you are literally getting people to see things from the perspective of a horse with some of the activities that you do. So this is just what's needed, and I applaud and commend what you do, and thank you so much for taking the time out today to talk to us.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's been lovely.
Thank you. Now, if people want to find you, how do they do that?
So you can just go to www.equischolars.co.uk and all our information is on there on the website, or just search for Equischolars on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, the usual places.
Great. I'll be putting a link to those in the description box to make it very easy for everyone to find you. Kate, thank you again.
Thank you so much.
And thank you all for watching. Until next time, goodbye. Thank you all for watching. Now, one little addition, and that is that I have started a Substack, and this Substack will include the adventures of Teddy and Mummy. I will be putting a link to that in the description box as well. So do follow us. Until next time, goodbye.